Welcome, everyone, to Repairing Relationships. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm going to give a quick introduction to myself. I am Rivka Malka Perlman. Usually, people just know me by Rivka Malka, and I have a website, rivkamalka.com, and that just keeps it very, very easy. I am blessed to run a coaching and transformation school, which you'll hear about at some point during this presentation. And that is where women gather to learn coaching techniques, which are also relationship skills, and to take a deep inner journey. And one of our main values when we train women in this work is we say you can only take someone as high up the mountain as you yourself have gone, which means that whenever you're working with other people, you are limited by your own courage of how much you have been able to work with your own heart and by your own experience and how much you have been willing to look at. So therefore, our school is both a training as a coach and at the same time takes you on a journey to your own heart and to improve all of your relationships, beginning with your relationship with yourself, moving into your relationship with Hashem, and then to your relationships with others. So this presentation is not part of that school. It's just an offering. It's a free offering, a gift of the heart as we go into these 9 days. These are 9 days on the Jewish calendar that are in mourning, but we never want to just mourn, because we're not supposed to walk around like we are so sad. No, if I fell down and I hurt my leg and I was bleeding and crying, you wouldn't only stand there and say, "Oh, poor you, look at your leg, look at the blood, look at the scratches, I feel so bad for you." At some point, I would really, really deeply want you to extend your hand and pick me up and, you know, take care of me. Could you help me get a Band-Aid? This is a very visceral memory for me. I see I'm getting really into it because there was one time where and I drove down this massive hill, really massive hill. Anyone who knows Cleveland Heights, where I grew up, knows about the Kane Park Hill. It's a really big hill for a small child. And at the end, I went right onto the rocks and I fell on my bike. And the policeman came over to help me. And you know what he said? "Oh, you poor thing." And I hobbled home. I remember thinking, I can't believe that I'm actually walking home with this level of injury. Like, what is happening? Anyway, I did recover because I got some help. And that is how I feel about today's workshop in the 9 days. It is one thing to mourn, but what I believe the calling is for all of us from Hashem and just common sense is just to say, hang on. Instead of just being sad about the destruction of the temple that was destroyed because of baseless hatred, what can we do to repair our relationships? So, um, so let us get into it. And today is going to be something interesting for you, a little departure from my usual teachings. And that is that today is all about the practical, because just like in the muscle in the example, you don't just want to have like a scraped knee and like we could just talk about it. You want to do something about it. So today is all about doing something about it. Therefore, I'm going to give you a very special treat. And that treat is the instruction of I want you to write in class. I'm going to give you a minute just to take out a journal and a pen. If you are someone who writes on your phone, you can write on your phone if you think that that's useful. Sometimes the phone is so disconnected. It's which one is it? Very left brain. So you really just want to do whatever is the most organic for you. And I'm going to give you a minute to get a pen and paper, because this is a class where you don't have to look at me the whole time. I want you to do your own thinking. Okay? Checking in with Rachel for a minute. Rachel, were you able to get our slides? If yes, they should be starting already. Okay? And we're just going to go back and forth with the slides, enjoying just a little bit of a visual. But really, I want you not less with me and more in your own head. Okay? I want you to be thinking about your relationships. And Rachel, if it's having any issues at all, we're just going to skip it because it's just going to be too complex. and then we'll save the sharing for the end. Can you move forward on the slides? Yes, okay. So we'll begin right here, back with that picture of the Beis HaMikdash. And after we do this picture of the Beis HaMikdash, then God willing, our slides will work sweetly and beautifully. Okay, here we go. So what is, you know what, they're confusing me. So just don't, everyone could see that I worked very hard to make 22 slides for you. They're gorgeous, but they're confusing me. So we're just gonna leave it until we figure it out, okay? That was an image of the Beis HaMikdash, a stunning, stunning piece of art. And where we're heading towards in repairing our relationships in the practical is towards a new kind of unity. We are after a global pandemic. And in the pandemic, a lot of things happened. We became more isolated and we became more connected. I like to think of it like the world softened. So just take a soft exhale. We're softening. Do you know what softening means? It means we're not in a rush. And throughout this whole workshop, we're not in a rush. It means we are surrendered. There was a global pandemic. There was nothing that we could do. It spread where it spread. And in our lives also, people hurt people, and there's not much that we can do to prevent that. I mean, we can try always, but the way that the world moves is that we're constantly making tikkunim, that is fixings, and that means that we get hurt. And also that we hurt other people, and neither of these are intentional. But every time that we work to repair a relationship, we're revealing a beautiful part of ourselves. We ourselves are becoming more whole. So the first thing that I want you to write about in your journals that you're taking notes on is, what relationships in my life need healing? And in today's class, we are focusing mostly on our relationships with others, while remembering that relationships with others always begins with a relationship to oneself. God willing, if you're in the coaching school or when you join the coaching school, you'll go on a deep journey of relationship with self. Today, it's about other people. If you are in a bad state for some reason, maybe you're depressed or you've just experienced a trauma in any way, then this work is not exactly for you. Every question that I ask, or every suggestion that I give, instead of making it about another, make it about yourself. My question would be, what is your relationship? What about your relationship with yourself needs healing? And if it gives you pleasure, you can write that down also, because very often those two things go hand in hand. Okay, so are we clear on the instruction? Please be gentle with yourself if you're not in a state to work on relationships. We don't want to give you a lot of homework. If you are in a state to work on relationships, then get ready to roll up your sleeves, because what I want you to do in this writing is I want you to free think and to write down specific names and specific actions that you want to take on. Nothing too much, everything in sweetness. But I have a goal, and my goal looks like this, that of all the right now 82 people in this live class, there's going to be 82 acts of kindness. And maybe there will be 182 acts of kindness that are coming out of this, or 282, who even knows, okay? But we are looking right now to affect real repair in the world. So can you just give me a yes, please, in the chat box if you're on board for taking real action? Primarily for others in this class, but if not, then for yourself. Sarah Geller says, yes, please, yes, 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 yes. Okay, good. So we're gonna try one more time with the slides. Are you ready? Rachel, are you ready with the slides? We're gonna give it a shot. We're looking at the slide that says, how many ways are there to work on relationships? Do you see that one? Yay, okay. No, okay, no slides it is. I know Rachel is so efficient that this is terribly frustrating for her, but Rachel, we surrender to Hashem's plan. So all the slides are they're just good. They were good for me to prepare. So the question that you didn't get to see is, how many ways are there to work on relationships? And the actual answer is endless. There are, Rivka, please don't share them, darling. It's just, if it doesn't work, then it's not worth it. Thank you so much. I don't mind at all. It was just a very fun art project. Yeah, don't worry at all. So how many ways are there to work on relationships? Endless. But today we're going to be focusing just on 5. The first one is called investment. You know what it means to have a savings account where you just put money in and you just are like, I'm investing in my savings. It means I'm investing in my future. I know that I'm going to need money someday, so I'm putting it aside. And the way that a savings account grows is when you put in a little bit at a time, just a little bit. My daughter and I have a jar, and whenever we have some change, whenever she has some change, I'm very, very lax in this. It's so hard for me to remember. But officially, we put it in the jar. One day we may take a trip to Hawaii. It's the Hawaii jar. We filled up one, we're working on filling up the other. And it just happens by a few coins at a time. And that's what investment is. So, the first thing that I want us to think about is the investment of checking up on people. You know, one of the reasons that our relationships are not strong right now is very, very simple. It's because we know so many people. I know this sounds silly, but I believe that it's true. I believe that in older times where you didn't have a phone or you only had a phone, depends how far back you want to go, we really knew the people in our town and that was it. Or we, even to place a phone call long distance, that was a really big deal. Now our world has become so big and so interconnected that I know that one of the things that happens to me is that it feels very overwhelming to stay in touch. And there is a place in the brain that can go like this. It's too hard to keep in touch with everyone. And anyway, I can't keep it up. I don't want to start a relationship that I can't keep up. Any of these type of things. Or it could be, I haven't checked up on her in so long, she'll think that it's funny if I'm asking how she's doing. Any of these things make us kind of have this kind of WhatsApp guilt. You know, I should be in touch with everyone. I can't be. I should check up on them. I can't. And actually, what it turns out is that human beings really need to be checked up on. I always think of human beings like babies. We have the same needs as babies, only with times we have learned to provide those needs for ourselves or to ask for those needs. But the baby need is still there. And if somebody else gives it to us, it's always a treat. So, in other words, it's important for me to check up on myself, to check in on my state of being, how am I doing? But also, it's important, it feels good to me when other people check up on me. How are you? I'm just checking in. And you'll never know how much it means to another person. We used to have a neighbor, and the rabbi of our shul, he called us about this neighbor. He said, there is a man who's an elderly man who just had his leg amputated, and he lives on the second floor of a home. He's renting a second floor of someone's home. Can you go pay a visit to him? So for a time until he passed away, um, myself and my children would visit him and bring him meals and just check up on him. Well, it was a very special part of our lives, even though it was a big responsibility. Checking up on him was it was very special, and the kids started to make him drawings and cards. And what was amazing to me was even after there would be a little bit of a lax time in not seeing him, the cards and the pictures they were up on his wall, and they stayed there for 1 year, for 2 years. Just a small reminder of someone loves you, someone's checking up on you. Now, this is a very extreme example of an elderly man who's all alone, who wouldn't have any other way of getting a nice card or a nice picture. But we're going to say 2 things. The first thing is we all know people like that. So, like I'm saying, just write down, see if anything comes to you of someone who would appreciate a checkup from you, right? How can we make it so that people are less alone, knowing that your one call or your one special email can literally put a smile on their face for the longest time? And it can be a source of pleasure for them that they can come back to again and again. But not only that, Here's the amazing thing. I say we are all babies. Therefore, when I was in a kind of a funk of a place, like my life just, there was too many things. I call it like a great wind was brewing, you know? It was so many things at once. I couldn't really be connected to people in the way that I usually am. And one of my sister-in-laws, who is just, she just started checking up on me. She didn't even know about this. And I would answer her in very brief because so much was happening with me. I wasn't ready to be soft and to be in connection and to be in relationship. But I just remember she that she checked up on me. And then when I came out of this space of the great wind, and as I was coming out, guess who was my first phone call? Guess where I felt comfortable? You know what? There's somebody who is right there who's caring about me no matter what. And I'm going to go and I'm going to communicate with them. And, you know, my real organic self wouldn't necessarily do that. Sometimes I can get into a very, very private place, even in a more insular place. And I wouldn't even think that I would share with my sister in law. But because she checked up on me, she became this wonderful, safe place. And I was able to come out of this and to share with her what was going on. And it was amazing. And you know what? She could have said, Riff doesn't sound like she's connecting. That's what they call me. She doesn't sound like she's connecting, or she is, you know, she's out of it. I'm going to leave her alone. I don't want to disturb her. But all she did was an unconditional checkup. So that's my question to you for our very first relationship tool in repairing the world and coming to greater unity. Who will you check up on? And as you think about this, I want you to think about how will they feel? Just imagine, let your mind go to them getting your text or your phone call. Text doesn't always make the same connection, but it's okay. We do what we can. A phone call is worth a million and a text is worth a thousand. So, or who knows, sometimes people can't even get on the phone. I remember I have a friend who works on a suicide hotline. Text, because kids right now are so unused to using the phone that to pick up the phone to reach out for help can sometimes be too much. But they can text this hotline and they can be talked down or talked with, and that's how they can be comfortable. So sometimes just a text. And I want you to think about, how will you feel? How will you feel once you have reached out? And another question for you to think about is, how long will it take? Like, do you think it will take 10 minutes of your time, 1 minute of your time? Really, what is the investment? Like, when you think, oh, it's so hard, you know, I'm so busy, or I'm in such crisis, or I don't have extra resources, what is the actual investment? And now we're going to ask ourselves two more questions. Will you do it more than once? And what is one possible outcome? Okay. And I love that you're all writing. Thank you very much. If it's like, this is it, this is my goal. And we're going to go through these relationship skills. We're going to go through these relationship skills. There's 5 of them, and they're just a drop in the bucket. And some of them are about doing, and some of them are about confronting. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are more complex. We start with the simple one. Okay. Checking up on people and how that can save their life. And when you check up on someone by text, by the way, you want to make it at least 2 lines. So the first line is saying, how are you doing? But the second line is letting them know of your intention. I just wanted to send some love, or I just wanted to see how you're doing after that big test, or I just wanted to let you know that you're on my mind. Okay? If you just say, how are you doing? Somebody doesn't necessarily know what emotion to attach to that. Is it like, you know, like it can just catch them off guard. So we start to learn WhatsApp etiquette or texting etiquette that you really want to let them know your intention. Okay. Can I get a thumbs up if you've done good writing on this? Ready to repair the world? Yay, Jelena. Yay, Tiffy. Yay, Bracha. Okay, I really appreciate it. All the thumbs up. Awesome. Let's go to the next one. Involvement, being hands-on with your love. So I have this memory. It's a time when someone was very hands-on with their love for me. that I was hosting a Purim Seuda, that means a festive Purim holiday meal at my house, and it was very crowded. And I was just doing all this hosting, and then I went into my kitchen and I saw that someone had organized all of the cakes and the goodies and cleared the table and made it look nice and manageable, and was like starting to put away salads. I couldn't believe it. I felt this rush of love towards me, and it was so unfamiliar because back in the day, I was super duper like in trying to be domesticated and host and be just like super duper, like, I got this, I'll take care of it, you just come and have a good time. So it took me like by complete shock. Someone cleaned up my kitchen. I couldn't believe it. This is an example of being hands on with your love. You're not only thinking about someone, you're doing something for them. Another example is when my husband overheard in Shul that a certain rabbi in town lost his wallet. And he like saw that the rabbi was really distraught. So you think to yourself, shoot, I feel so bad for my friend. They lost their wallet. They have to, get a new license and get a new credit card. And it's so unnerving. It's so disorienting. But one of the things that he did was that he went out and he bought this rabbi a wallet. And I remember that the rabbi was so moved by this. How many people do that? How many people go out of their way when you just like when something happens to you to try to pitch in? Again, sometimes the human mind can think, I'm so powerless. Like, what can I do to help a situation? The same thing is with my daughter and math, by the way. She has to learn math over the summer. And I was thinking, I feel so powerless. Like, I think that all the math I knew ended in 6th grade. And like, can I really sit down and learn math with her? Forget teaching her math. So I was just keeping it at, okay, I'll try to help you. And then we made up that I'll help her for 10 minutes a day and I'll take the initiative on it. And that scared me. And my brain wanted to go to black and white thinking, how will I do every day? Like remembering things every day, that's also hard for me. But I committed because I'm on this topic of relationships. What will happen if I commit to doing math with her for 10 minutes a day? And do you know what? It was hands-on love. And it turns out that it was the hands-on love that she needed even more than the math practice. So when children are very little, you are constantly hands-on with them. But even older children have a baby side, and even husbands. Pardon me if you don't like the word baby. It just makes it so human to me. You could use it a human side. Even husbands have a human side. Even neighbors have a human side. Even your rabbi has a human side. What can you do to give hands-on love? What is an act of kindness that you can do? And this is really fun because you could think about it right now. It just think about it. What can I do? And it can even be giving a gift, or it can even be buying a candle, or it can be I just sending someone some resources, right? I thought of you. It doesn't have to cost money, but there's something about it being hands-on that a person can grasp. I'm not alone in this world. I don't have to figure everything out myself. Even if the rabbi had to get a new license and a credit card by himself, but he didn't have to buy the wallet. You know what I'm saying? Even if I still had to do all my dishes, I didn't have to clean up my kitchen by myself. So what can we do to let another person know that they're not totally alone? And this one takes some creativity. So I'm going to give you a minute to write. And as you write, I'm going to tell you something very interesting. My grandmother, she had Alzheimer's for 10 years, which is very unusual. She was really, really not able to think for most of those 10 years. And at her funeral, the rabbi quoted this idea that a person should always go to sleep with a kindness on his mind. He's supposed to go to sleep thinking, this is the good that I will do tomorrow. And then even if the day turns out that you didn't get to do it, still you are credited with a thought. So he said about my dear beloved grandmother that even though for 10 years she wasn't able to do acts of kindness, She is credited every single day of those years as if she had done it, because that's who she was. Only she was what is called an ones, which is someone who is in a forced position. So she couldn't act on these acts of kindness. So even the mere act of you writing it down, even if you don't get to do it, but I hope you get to do it, but you must know that the act of you writing it down is already a credit to you. You're already becoming a more beautiful person right this minute. You're already putting drops. Did you ever put food coloring into water? It's so fun. You put in a drop and it just kind of like swirls and sinks, and it does what it does. It's just so beautiful. So that's what I think about when I see you writing down these specific acts of kindness. I think, ooh, it's so beautiful. It's like that drop of red food coloring is starting to swish around and the world is becoming a more beautiful place. Okay. Some examples of hands-on love are um, letting a person know that you are available if they need help, and just being by their side, maybe taking them on an errand if that would make it easier for them, letting someone know, I'm going to the grocery, can I pick something up for you? Um, my mind is moving to gifts a lot today. Like I wear headscarves. Every once in a while, I'll get a gift of a headscarf and I feel very special. And, people know that I thought of it, a little gift of jewelry, or just really in your life, in your daily life, to cook a little something for someone and make them a surprise, to lay out lunch with the peppers just right and a couple of chopped up cucumbers and a little mound of tuna fish. It's just so sweet. It's a gift. It's hands-on help. I know you're hungry. Sometimes a kid has to clean their room and you can come in and you could say, you know what today is a day for hands-on love. So I'm not going to tell you to clean your room. I'm going to do it with you just for love. Okay? All these are little things, a little note just for love. Okay, beautiful. Let's move on because we have 5 to get through today. Number 3 is to invigorate. What needs special attention? So this invigorating a relationship, it has to do with making special time to be with people. When I was first married, I spent a lot of time with my husband because we were in a traditional setup where you live in Israel and, the man goes to yeshiva and the woman babysits or does something or other to make a little bit of money. And that's it. We saw each other all the time. And we said, this like romantic idea of going on dates is really lovely, but we don't need it. We don't have the money for it and we don't need it. But after around 2 years, we suddenly woke up and we said, you know what? Yeah, people do need to go on dates. They do need to spend time together. There is something about focused time on together with another person that is extraordinarily special. It makes a difference in the relationship. And as we are repairing relationships coming out of COVID, etc., it may feel very funny to invite someone out on a date. You may feel, but I haven't spoken to them in a whole year. I can't just like say, can we spend some time together? I feel silly. Or it could be that it's someone who you've never spent time with, but maybe you see them online and you're thinking, I'd like to get to know them better. You might feel silly to invite them out on a date with you. Remember the baby? Everyone likes attention. So you're not going to lose. It's so worthwhile to get over that initial inner feeling of awkwardness and to reach across the divide, the illusion of the divide, to make some time to be with another person. Right now, whenever I do phone calls, it's always an appointment. I say, because I realized about myself that I keep appointments. So if I keep appointments, then why is it hard for me to keep up with relationships? Until I realized I have to make appointments for relationships. How many of you realize this? I know I'm not the only one where you suddenly realize you're not going to tell a friend, I'll be, we'll keep in touch. You realize you have to say, let's talk on Tuesday at 12, because that's just how life goes. Even our interactions need to be scheduled. And this is a way of making sure that it happens. So I want you to think about you spending time with someone who you want to spend time with. It can be that you take them out to make them feel special, or it can be that you take them out because you just want to be sitting in a space of love in this world. Two people spending time together is a space of incredible love. Every time that two people interact beautifully, the Shekhinah is present. The Shekhinah is the divine presence. It unifies. It's the glue. It's the air. You can feel it. You can even feel it on our class today. There's a unity of spirit when you're writing, and in this unity of spirit, it's the Shekhinah, the divine presence says, yes, I'm comfortable here. And the whole goal, not the whole goal, one of our goals is to make the world a comfortable place for Hashem to dwell. What are you waiting for, Hashem? Why are we waiting for the redemption? What needs to happen? Could somebody please tell me? Well, it's got to be comfortable. Imagine that you invited someone to your house. You're like, I'd love for you to come, but I don't have any sleeping space and I don't have enough food. Well, they're really going to have a hard time coming to your house. So we're saying, Hashem, we want the Geula. We want a world peace. We want this world to like be filled with your revelation. We can't say, but we don't have enough love and we still don't get along. That doesn't work. That's like we know that by the great flood, the Mabul, there was just no place for the Shekhinah to rest besides for in the coziness of Noah and his family. But the world was just a mess. It couldn't be. So we want to create a comfortable world. And this is my point. I want you to become attuned and aware in all your interactions every day, that every time there's sweetness between people, parent, child, husband, wife, friend, neighbor, mailman, the whole thing. And I mean it when I say the mailman. That's a person too. Grocery checkout person. That's a person too. The guy who puts the shopping cart back. That's a person too. Every time there's kindness between two people, the divine presence, as if, gives a big exhale. Ah, I'm comfortable in the world. I can breathe. People are nice to each other. So this idea, we're just going to wrap up with this on point number 3 before we head in a little deeper, is what relationship can you invigorate? And this is like putting $10,000 into your savings account. Okay. This is a big investment. Yes. Excellent. Beautiful. I've been doing this homework myself, by the way, because I had that time in my life where things was like a big win. So then afterwards, I'm slowly taking all of the steps that I'm telling you to take. We're in it together. Okay. Rivki wants to know, should we focus on one person in all the questions? If that is the main thing that comes up for you today, this is your free exercise. It could be that you want to work on one relationship. It could be that you just are coming out of isolation or have other relationships that you want to work on. It doesn't have to be one person, but it can be. Okay, now we're going to work on this. We have 2 more. This is about, I wanted to tell you a story that was very meaningful to me that my sister-in-law actually told me. She was telling me about an interview that Sarah Yocheved Rigler did. And Sarah Yocheved Rigler brought together, can you hear that banging in the background? One of my sons, when he likes to relax, he likes to kick the wall. Are you hearing it? Is it bothering you? No? Okay. Okay, good. He's just relaxing. So, yeah, so this is what my sister-in-law told me. I didn't see it myself, but it was so meaningful to me. She made a phone, and it was one of my catalysts for this presentation. So she brought together a woman who was deeply spiritual in Eastern religions, together with a woman who was very Orthodox and very involved in community manners in the religious way. And she thought, let these two have a conversation about the meaning of life. Each of them is like striving spiritually, and each of them wants to know about the meaning of life. And let's see what happens when they face off together. How can they learn from one another? So the woman from the East, she was very, very articulate. And she was talking about all the different, reasons for being and ways of being and interconnectedness and the unity. And the woman who was this other woman, this Orthodox Jewish woman, when it came time for her to speak about the meaning of life, she was quite short and she was fumbling. It wasn't all coming together very nicely. And the interview went back to the woman from the East who was so articulate, and the woman who was Orthodox, again, couldn't quite get her words out. But while this interview was happening, the phone kept ringing. And when the phone would ring, the answering machine would pick up. So this must be an old interview. The answering machine would pick up, and it would be somebody um, wanting to speak to this Orthodox woman saying, we're here for the community fund, and I know that you volunteered, and I'm just checking up because there's 3 things you were going to bring over, and thank you so much, and we're looking forward to having it. And then she would get another message, and it was about helping another person. Oh, we're calling from this place that you're involved in, just checking up on XYZ, and we have a question for you, and we need your advice. And the whole time that she wasn't finding her words, at the same time, she was getting interrupted by her answering machine. And when it was all over, she spoke to Sarah Yocheved, and she said, like, I really don't feel comfortable with how that interview went. I couldn't get the words for the meaning and the reasons of life. And Sarah Yocheved just like smiled and nodded, as far as I understand, because her answering machine had done all the talking for her. Clearly, she was a person who knew about the meaning of life because she was actively involved in kindness towards others. So there's one piece of inner growth and understanding and emunah work, and then there's another piece, the piece of the richness of life, of the doing for others, and of the repairing relationships. Now, so far in our conversation, we've spoken a lot about doing for others, and we haven't spoken as much about repairing relationships. And in our next 2 segments, we're going to speak a little bit more about the repair. But I want to tell you something. These first few things are repairing relationships. We don't know who needs to hear from us and how meaningful it is when they know that, yes, we do think about them. We don't know how much that repairs something in somebody's heart. It could be huge. And when you spend time on a date with someone, you don't know, that could be the greatest thing that ever happened to them the whole year. And probably the greatest thing that happened to you as well. We don't know how much repair of the heart takes place. And we also don't know how much repair takes place in our own heart. Sometimes we don't think of ourselves as a giver. We think of ourselves as someone who needs a lot and or is on the receiving end in some way. We don't know how much repair is happening in the world because of our simple acts of kindness. So we have already repaired a lot without getting into any grand psychology. Just at the baby level of human beings need human beings, you have created great repair. Okay, we're going to continue on now with our last 2 things. So the last 2 things are, number 1 is called to interact. To interact, I'll actually share this slide with you because it's going to be helpful for you. Just a moment. I'm going to share my screen in a moment. Whenever I teach, I always call on this one principle that is very, I lost myself, that is very, come back to me, that is very, very important to me. And it's called the designed alliance. A designed alliance is similar to a relationship contract. And I remember a coach once telling me something that has been a guiding light for me. The coach said, any relationship that fails, it's because the alliance wasn't designed or something changed and it wasn't redesigned. I cannot tell you how deep this is. In all our relationships, we are in relationship contracts, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a parent, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker. We're in the midst of a contract, even if it's unwritten. Now, let's say you and your friend decide to do some kind of workshop together, or decide to host a Sheva Brachos together, a festive meal together. Right there, you start having a conversation about who's going to do what, who's going to bring what. This is called a designed alliance. If you don't design it and you just say, we'll do it together, then on Tuesday, when it's time to have this festive occasion, Sarah's thinking one thing, Leia's thinking another thing. Who's gonna actually bring the chicken? Who's in charge of the flowers? I get mad at her, she gets mad at me, and it just wasn't designed. And because it wasn't designed, things started to fall apart. Not only that, but sometimes we change and our needs in relationships change. So for a while, I was able to watch your kids every day, and now I'm not able to. So something changed, but if I don't redesign the alliance, what do I land up with? Drama, resentment. Someone asked me to repeat the line, and that is that any relationships that fails, it's because the alliance wasn't designed or something changed and the alliance wasn't redesigned. This is, I can't even tell you. I just, it's so important, because what it means is that we are responsible for having these conversations. So I want you to think about it. This is on the aspect of repairing. Think about, what is a relationship that is no longer working in the way that it used to. It's just not working. Maybe I've moved on in some way. Maybe it's too much for me. Maybe I need more help. Maybe I need to be spoken to in a different way. I can't even think of all the examples, but I just know for a fact, for a near fact, for a speculation, a strong speculation, that there are relationships that are not working for us in the way that we design them, because we are ever changing beings. So I want you to know that there is a skill called designing the alliance. Designing the alliance means in this point, I'm not a baby. I'm growing up. I'm putting on my big girl suit and I'm saying, can we please have a conversation about how our relationship works? Or sometimes I use the word design the alliance. That seems to confuse people, but it just makes me feel so settled. Like, can we please redesign this alliance? Tippy's laughing because it is funny. It's like, I love these words. Can we please redesign the alliance? And I've done this together with my husband as well. He knows. I'll say, I used to be able to do XYZ and it really worked for me, but I can't. Or at one point I had made a big mistake and like we were constantly talking about it. And at some point I just said to him, like, I need to redesign this conversation. I've already had self-punishment. I can no longer like discuss this. I need to design our alliance that we both know, that I already understand, etc. Just coming out like as your full adult, taking responsibility that you are in a social contract with another person and you can shift that contract, right? Because you're changing. It's good. It's good, instead of it falling apart or creating drama or creating resentment. So this is just something that I want you to take with you into all your relationships. And the second thing that is also extremely near and dear to me, that I was taught from my friend RT, so these two things, if you've heard me teach, you've heard me access these quite a bit, is an idea that we each live in our own reality. Our own reality means that whatever happens to us lands on us in a way that feels and is real to us. Facts are one thing, our reality that we live inside of is another. So a very quick example is, you stepped on my toe, and the fact is that you stepped on my toe. But the story that I tell myself, my inner reality, may be, people are always stepping on my toes, or why, what am I? Am I invisible? Or wow, I had a kapara and my toe got stepped on. Or I don't care, it's just a toe. Let me shake it off. All of these are my own inner story that I tell myself about the facts that happened to me. Okay? I see your question. I'll get to it very shortly. Please ask it again when I'm done. So, my reality happens on the inside, and I can take ownership in a compassionate way that what feels real to me is very, very important, but it's not a fact, but it still matters because it's my reality. So the wonderful acronym for this is called PIES. And PIES is the idea of, oh, I'm not going to share it. It's too annoying. I have all these beautiful things to show you. Not annoying, God forbid. Let's change that example. It is disappointing. It's disappointing. They were so pretty. But you can write this down on your paper, okay? With everything in life, there are the facts, and then there's my inner reality, the story that I tell myself. So PIES stands for physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual. That means that I now have a tool to be able to get clarity with myself about my own feelings. And this helps me to clear up from resentment, to take a compassionate look towards myself, and if possible or if necessary, to express myself to another person in a non-blaming way. And you can look up online. I have spoken about PIES before. I think I call it like the one relationship tool you'll need, or like the greatest relationship tool in the world. Thank you, my dear friend Rivka, RT. She's here with us today, and she teaches this like amazingness. And it changed my life. So I love to teach it. So let me share it with you real quick. P is for physical. I take an assessment of the facts. What are the facts that I can see with my five senses that actually happened? And this is so different than I was stuck in traffic and it was so frustrating because it's not that. It's just the physical facts. There was a lot of traffic on the I-95 and the time was 10 o'clock. Physical facts. And then you called. Physical facts. There's no judgment to the facts. And that's the first thing that we do. We try to untangle our inner trigger and untangle our inner reality by just looking at the facts. So I want you guys to try this now. Think about something that really bothers you, or something that hurt you recently, or something that you wish was different, and write down just the facts about it. Just the facts. I know we're going a little bit faster, but we want to be mindful of your time. And this is just kind of like a light layer of frosting on relationships. That's what this class is, but with big impact, hopefully, because you're doing amazing work. Write down just the facts. The next thing you're going to become attuned to is, what is the story that I tell myself about these facts? Now, I have to tell you something. Our stories are fascinating and interesting. Our stories can make us think, nobody likes me, I'm all alone. Our stories can make us think, I was judged, I was ruined, I was disgraced. Our stories can make us think that this always happens to me, or I'm still wounded, or you don't like me, or she only acts like she likes me, or just the stories. Do not mock them. They are the stuff of humanity and they hurt, but they are just the story at the very same time. So let's take a minute to write down, what is the story that I tell myself about these facts? On occasion, we can have a positive story too. As we heal and grow, and God willing, you'll join us in the coaching school where we're on a healing and growth experience, we can actually start to have default settings about telling the story that are much more positive. But as we go on our healing journey, our earlier stages and our more wounded stages often lead to a story that is very wounding and hurtful. I remember that I had this situation when I was running a retreat. At a retreat beforehand, I had made someone had felt bad because I didn't greet them properly. So at this retreat, I specifically didn't greet anybody, and I saved I saved this situation that we would just have a group welcome. Later on, when we were learning about pies, one of the women said, when you didn't say hello to me when I walked in, the story that I told myself, and it was a terrible story, right? It was such a hurtful story. And meanwhile, I was trying to not hurt anyone by giving a longer welcome and getting, because I would get into a conversation with someone and then other people would be waiting. So I wanted to just save the welcomes for later. But people have hurts and pains. And if you think, oh, I don't know if she's happy to see me, then that's exactly what it can feel like on the inside, right? So this is not about our being practical. This is about our loving ourselves compassionately enough to say, yep, this is what it feels like on the inside. Now we go to E. E is emotional. How do I feel? And we want to keep it to the more direct feelings, which is mad, sad, glad, hurt, afraid. and ashamed. The ashamed is it's an add-on, and it's an important add-on. And these are just the simple feelings. And you know why? Because when we get into the more complex feeling, like frustrated and disappointed, the more complex feelings then we are right back in the story of what we're telling ourselves, right? We are back in, I was disappointed because you were going to, and I was going to this, and I felt this, and all that, right? There's a story in there. So here we are just keeping it at the emotion. And as you write down this emotion that you're experiencing, it can be more than one. It could be sad and mad, and it could even be glad for another reason. I want to take a minute to breathe. And to let that emotion run through you. It's not easy being a human being. It's work. Adam la'amal yulad, man was born to work. And the sweetness of it is when we do the work and we make these repairs, we find more wholeness. So then it's sweeter. But it doesn't always feel good. So now we're going to come to the S. The S is very deep. S stands for spiritual. My spiritual longing is. There's something that we yearn for beyond the story. It's something that is a spiritual longing, a longing for friendship, a longing for companionship, a longing to be understood, a longing for connection. As we tap into our spiritual longing, we get a taste of the freedom. Why this trigger had to happen in the first place? Because your spiritual longing is the guiding light for the repair. That's what you really want. You don't want to walk around the world feeling bad or resentful or mad or blaming or alone. What you really want is whatever it is, it's your core desire. Now, at the end of pies comes another letter, and that is R. There's no neat way to do this. It's just pies, R. And the R stands for request. And request is something that you can request of yourself or request from another. So now that you know what your spiritual longing is, what can you request of yourself? For example, if your spiritual longing is to have more connection, is there a request that you can make of yourself? Or is there a request that you can make from another? And it would just depend. But what's very important and special about this tool is that it doesn't rely on another person. It relies on your own compassionate and proactive view towards yourself. One of my favorite experiences teaching pies was to a group of middle school students. And their example was when you raise your hand in school, and it's so upsetting because the teacher is not calling on you. Well, what's the story that you tell yourself? She doesn't like me. She plays favorites. No one ever calls on me, right? And how does that feel? I feel sad. I feel mad, right? I feel ashamed. I feel hurt. And what's your spiritual longing? I want the teacher to know who I am, and I want her to know that I knew the answer. R. So what's your request? Well, this was a really wonderful thing to see young children be empowered by this. You can leave a note for the teacher on her desk saying, I want you to know I've been paying attention and I learned the answer, and I knew the answer that you asked, even though you didn't get a chance to call on me. Or you can go up to her at recess and you could say, could you please call on me next time? It's so fun for me when I have the answers. Or you can just request of yourself that you feel really amazing, that you know the answers. Sometimes in difficult situations as adults, we have to request of ourselves the opposite. We have to request of ourselves, don't volunteer, don't raise your hand. This is not for children, obviously, because a classroom should be a safe environment. But sometimes in life, our request that we have to make of ourselves is to withhold, not to do the next hardest thing and the next hardest thing, but to cut it out. Don't do it if it's too hard. Take a protective stance towards yourself. What is the request that you make of yourself? Okay, beautiful. So I will give you an example of this. Well, what time is it? No, I'm not going to give you another example of pies because today is clippity clop. Today we're mixing and swirling red, orange, yellow, blue, green, purple. All those colors are like swirling around the world and we are growing and it's gorgeous. So I'm going to give you the last one. And the fifth tool is all about um, going higher and getting bigger. Everyone knows that there is the story of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. And even if you've heard this story every single year, you have to hear it again. I think about this story and I could cry like from the insanity of it all. So I'm going to tell it to you. It's a Tisha B'Av story. I'll tell it to you in quick. So the story is of a man who was making a big party. And he must have been a wealthy man because he had great food and he must have been important. He invited the rabbis of his community to participate and he sent out invitations. Well, he had an enemy named Bar Kamsa and he had a friend named Kamsa. And the invitation got to Bar Kamsa instead of to Kamsa. So Bar Kamsa shows up at the man's door. And what is he thinking? Could you imagine? He got the invitation. So he's thinking, I'm invited to the party. The man wants to make peace with me. Whoa, okay. So he shows up at the door, ready. It's time for peace. And the host is furious. He says, what are you doing here in my party? He said, well, you invited me. And the host said, I most certainly did not invite you. Somehow they must have figured out that the invitation went to the wrong person. And by that time, there was a crowd gathering. And so Bar Kamsa said, please, could you just let me stay? I'm, sorry that you don't want me here, but it'll be really embarrassing for me to leave. And the host said, no, you cannot stay. Do not step foot into my house. And he said, please don't send me away. I'm going to be humiliated in front of all of these rabbis. I'll be like as if I'm the worst guy. Please don't send me away. And he said, sorry, nothing doing. Get out of here. And finally, he was forced to leave the house. In the meantime, the people who were overhearing him, including, unfortunately, the rabbinic people who should know better, did not say anything in his defense. And so Bar Kamsa was so hurt, his pain was so searing that all he could have on his mind was, I've got to get back at these people. I can't even stand it. So he went to the Roman government and he told them, if you send an offering to be brought up on the Jewish Holy Temple, they're not going to give it. They're not going to offer it up to God for you. They won't do that because it's from you. They're not really having any allegiance to the Roman Empire. This was not true. This was a lie, but he said this lie to get the Jewish people into trouble because he was so hurt, not just by the host, but by all the other people in the crowd and by the rabbis that didn't say anything. He wanted to get them into big trouble. And so he said to the Roman government, he said, I myself will take an animal to, be given up as an offering and on your behalf, and you'll see they're not going to accept it. These Jews are not really surrendered to your governance. So he took the animal and he made what is called a mum. He made a blemish on it. He cut the animal in some way so that it would be unfit for a holy offering. And indeed, they couldn't bring it up. And this was the beginning of this whole entire destruction of the whole temple, the destruction of the Jewish people. We were sent away out of our holy land without a holy temple, all because one person wasn't nice to another person. This was how it happened for this story of interpersonal relationships. And it doesn't matter how many times you hear this story, every time it breaks your heart. And as you mature spiritually, you start to realize I have been that host sometimes. First you think, oh, Bar Kamsa was so bad. Then you think the rabbis were so bad. Then you realize there have been times in my life where I just said, that one I like, that one I don't like. This one's invited, this one is not invited. If this person comes towards me, I stick with my story about who they are. Or these are the people that I don't associate with, or these are the people that are part of my past. And we cement the story in our hearts so that even if opportunity comes knocking at our door, we're wrapped up in our story so much that we can't just let it go. We've all been that person. There's nobody to blame. We can't blame Bar Kamsa. Sorry, he was hurt. And then we also know that sometimes we have been Bar Kamsa. We have been so hurt and we need so much healing and forgiveness to work on forgiveness by the people that have rejected us or made us feel terrible. So our last point is Where can we be bigger? Where can we surrender just to surrender? Just because it makes the world a better place. We don't want to land up at like Bar Kamsa causing mass destruction. We don't want to be like the host causing mass destruction, sticking to our story, not letting people in. We want to find a way towards being higher and bigger. And that's the last question that I'm going to leave you with to journal about. I'm not leaving you just yet. We're leaving in 10 minutes. But where can we be bigger? Where can you put up the white flag and just surrender? Now, it's not always safe to surrender to people. It doesn't mean that you need to send them an invitation, although it could mean that. It doesn't mean that you need to send a note, although it could mean that. This is the inner spiritual work that Hashem knows. The thoughts that you think, do you ever like say words out loud and Google writes them out for you? It's the coolest thing, right? Well, the thoughts that you think, they are like that to God. They're like that to Hashem. He can read your mind. So it's like you're just thinking it, even if you haven't done anything. It's as if being typed out in the book of life, your book of life, and the book of redemption and the book of the world, every thought that you think. So, what thoughts can you think that can be bigger thoughts that can open you up so that if the opportunity does come your way for more shalom, you'll be soft, you'll be ready. You won't be like that host, so disturbed and upset and sending people away. How can you become softer towards humanity, knowing that any one of us can get pretty, pretty nasty, even if we don't identify as that at all? It can happen up here in our heads. How can we be softer and be bigger? And really, I'm going to give you a challenge for any of you who have a specific life situation that needs shalom. How can you extend a hand and say, I just want there to be shalom? Whatever story happened, happened, but I want you to know that my heart is in shalom with you. Okay? Now, before I knew that I would be doing so much work on repairing relationships, that I would be gifted with that idea, with that work to do alongside you, there was a date set on the calendar. And this date was set a long time ago, and it was for our coaching school to reopen for registration. And I didn't know how beautifully these two things would coincide. But we are here today, and I want to open up the floor to Rachel to show us a little bit about what the next opportunities for learning that you can have. Because I truly believe that we treat others like we treat ourselves. And so this road to coaching, to learning, to growing in our relationship skills, it teaches us how to treat ourselves with a kind eye and how to treat others with a kind eye and how to see one another in our magnificent and in our humanity at the same time. So I hope that you'll stay with me for the next few minutes. Rachel's going to show you something really cool. And you should just know that in honor of all this going on, and because I get choked up from the emotion of it, like I deeply, deeply, deeply desire the healing, that that we are having a sale. And that means that what we've done is we've opened up Foundations, which is meant to be a $1,200 course at just $100 a month. That means 3 months of learning, and it's only $100 for each month versus $400 for each month. And this, Rachel will show you what in the world that means, what this learning means and all that. And before she does, I just want to read to you, actually, maybe I'll have Rachel read to you a testimonial that came in just last night from one of our women in the coaching school. Rachel? And I want to just say that you are asking me questions, and I want to answer them very, very quickly. Number one, Rachel, what are you showing? Could you please show the front end of the coaching school and then the back end of the coaching school? Someone who wants to share this, yes, with pleasure. We'll send it out in an email. If you signed up because you got an email, you'll get a replay in your email. Number two, a question came in, what if I'm in a toxic relationship? Then it's time to take a stronger stand for yourself and to use pies to clarify, do I need to get out? Do I need to speak up for my needs? Do I need to get some help in learning how to speak up for my needs? Or does this relationship just need to be over? And definitely to get some support on that, because when you're in a toxic relationship, you begin with your own toxic thinking. towards yourself, and you can't always see what you need to do. So it would be very good to get some coaching on that. Okay, Rachel, it's all yours. And we're on a time constraint. We have a class that's starting just in a few minutes. So go ahead, Rachel.
Hi, everybody. So because we are having a time constraint, I am going to try to multitask, and we are going to Davenat Hashem allow this to work. So what I am sharing now is the front page of our coaching school, where if you type in Rivka Malka's name, and it's rivkamalka.com, this is what will come up for you.
What I'm seeing here
And
is actually the homepage. Is that correct?
yes, the homepage first, and then I'm going to take them to the coaching school landing page.
Amazing.
Yeah. And on your own time, please go through this. We really talk a lot about why and how coaching comes to you and what you will personally grow from, what you could expect in your own growth on your journey, and how to get in touch with it. Now, if you simply add at the end of rivkamalka.com a forward slash, and I will put this in the chat box at the end, but you type in coaching hyphen, whoops, yeah, school.
Rachel, if it's tricky, maybe I'm just going to talk about it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, you're just showing them how to get there?
I was just basically going to show them how to get there and yeah, what the 4 modules are, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you, darling. Yeah, I'm just mindful of the time because we're ending in 4 minutes. Um, and I know you have tried so hard, Rachel. This is like, Rachel is Mrs. Efficient. This is not very fun for her. So I'm sending you lots of love, Rachel. Okay, you guys. Yesterday I got a testimonial, and this testimonial spoke a lot for me. So just to give you a quick heads up, our coaching school is 4 modules. It's Foundations 1, Foundations 2, and then Restorative and Divine Healing, and then Inner Child Healing. The whole entire thing takes a year, but you can join now for the first 3 months. And you might wonder, is it worth it to join for the first 3 months? What will I learn? Yes, you're going to learn amazing coaching skills. And how it works is that you have one video with a class by me, and then we meet for 2 hours every week in an interactive class, which is awesome. And there's hundreds of women. It's amazing. And then the women themselves get split into breakout rooms so that they have partners, and you get to practice your coaching skills on another person. This is a certification program. If you go through the whole program and get your hours, you're certified to become a coach. However, it is also a self-development program, because that's really how you become a coach. So therefore, you are growing the whole time together with this sisterhood, and it's awesome. I'm going to read you this testimonial because it was so, it wasn't practical, it was emotional, and it literally touched my heart. Being in Rivka Malka's school is like being on one of those intense Israel women's trips, but all year. It's a treat, it's a gift, it's work. The personal growth and processing and communal sharing is well beyond what we can do by ourselves at home. This is a league of its own. And the participants, each of them so different and gifted in so many ways, yet I find myself relating to each woman and what she shares. I joined this school because I knew that I wanted more of these type of guidance, teachings, and presence in my life on a regular basis. Now I am not only healing and growing, but I also have new practical skills I use in my own professional and personal life, and a bunch of new, real international friends. Rivka Malka is a true leader in that she does not create followers, she creates more leaders. Usually it would be a funny thing to read about yourself, but that was so dear to me because that is what I want. It's incredible to witness. In the school, we are simultaneously full team players and our own team captains. I see how she wisely chooses her staff, thank you, Rachel, and educators, how she spontaneously, okay, etc., talking about how we encourage the growth of individuals while maintaining a community with healthy and safe boundaries, which yield emotional connection and professional growth. This environment is a unique one of growth and healing. I love this testimonial, but you can see actual visual video testimonials on the site when you look up rivkamaka.com/coaching-school. And we have our sale going, and I want you to join, and I want you to continue on this work of repairing relationships and also learning new relationship skills and getting deeply into special friendships through the school. Okay, dear friends. Yes, school begins August 2nd. It is now 1:16, so we're only going to give it 1 minute or 2 minutes for any questions that there might be. And then we're going to say a very wonderful goodbye to you. While we just see if anyone has any questions, I would like you to do one thing for yourself, and that is please write in the chat box the main thing that you got out of today. Even though you got so much, the main thing is sorry, I lost my train of thought because these questions came in. The main thing that you are taking away, because that is what's going to stick with you. If you want to sign up, you just go to rivkamalka.com /coaching-school, and it's awesome. And take a look at that page because we put tons of information on it and there's just a lot. We love it. It's awesome. It is for ages 18 to 120. Yes. Oh, I'm loving seeing everything come in to redesign relationships as things shift. The pies plus our method of going through a resentment. She says the school is transformational. The main thing I got is being human is work. And when we make repairs, we find more wholeness. Yes, you're like a piece of artwork that's coming to life, or like a rose that's blossoming. Every relationship that we repair, we're really fixing a piece of ourselves because we're all connected. And when there's a piece of ourselves that is not as connected to another, we feel that gap, that void. Oh, oh. Beautiful. I'm loving what's coming through. I feel like having a good cry, but instead I'll have a good laugh at the joy that there are such beautiful people in the world. Okay, dear friends, we're ending here. I'm loving these chats in the chat box. And if you would do just one more thing, last final thing, could you please just write the word yes if you think that you are going to implement any of what you wrote down, that you will practically reach out to another person and do one of the things. I'm only asking about one because sometimes just seeds are planted and that's enough. Will you do one of those things? Yes, Leslie. Yes, Sephora. Yes, Verle. Yes, Charles. That's not Charles. Yes, Kitty. Yes, Chani. Yes, Shalina. Yes, Aliska. Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look at you, precious children. Look what's going on over here. All we had is a 1-hour class and we're ready to rock and roll. So if we could do this, you could do this, Hashem. Yes, yes, and yes, says Rachel. Oh, so great. Dobra says yes. Chani says yes. Yay. Yay. If all this repair will happen, remember that the repair is bigger than the brokenness. So we'll just overcome. Okay. It's a good time to end our class. We're all going to go get to work, the most beautiful work in the world. Okay, everyone. See you, and I will see you, God willing, in our coaching school. I'm looking very, very forward. Bye-bye.